The sweltering January heat in Auckland, New Zealand was nothing compared to the absolute inferno of controversy that was about to engulf the tennis world. What started as a heartbreaking semifinal loss has exploded into the single most devastating equipment scandal in modern tennis history. And at the center of it all stands a 20-year-old sensation from the Philippines who refused to stay silent when she knew something was terribly, catastrophically wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change everything you thought you knew about fair competition in professional tennis. This isn't just another sports controversy that will fade away in a week. This is a technological conspiracy that allegedly involves secret prototype testing, corporate cover-ups, tournament officials looking the other way, and equipment that might literally be doing the playing for the athletes themselves. This is the story they desperately didn't want you to hear, but Alexandra Eala made damn sure the world would know the truth. Picture this scene. January 10th, 2026. The ASB Classic semifinals in Auckland. The stadium is absolutely electric with anticipation. On one side of the net, you have Alex Eala, the pride of an entire nation, playing quite possibly the best tennis of her entire life. She's just guaranteed her spot in the Australian Open main draw through her ranking rise, a massive achievement that represents years of sacrifice and dedication. Now she's hunting for her second WTA Tour final appearance. This is her moment. This is supposed to be her breakthrough into the elite tier of professional tennis. Across the net stands China's Jinyu Wang, the seventh seed, known throughout the tour for her flat, penetrating ground strokes that seem to cut through the air with surgical precision. On paper, this matchup looks like an absolute blockbuster, the kind of match that creates future champions and defines careers. For nearly 3 hours, it delivered everything you could possibly want from elite athletic competition. Eala was absolutely everywhere on that court, painting lines with precision that defied belief, her lefty forehand finding angles that seemed to violate the basic laws of geometry. Then came the moment that seemed to capture everything special about Alex Eala as a competitor. She found herself down 1-5 in the first set, staring directly into the abyss of a complete blowout, facing a deficit that would have absolutely shattered lesser players psychologically. But this is Alex Eala we're talking about. This is a champion in the making, someone who has fought her entire life to get to this level. She didn't just fight back. She staged one of the most miraculous comebacks you'll ever witness in professional tennis, rattling off 6 consecutive games to take the first set 7-5. It was the kind of mental fortitude that separates good players from great ones, the kind of championship mentality that makes superstars. Fans in the stadium were on their feet, roaring their approval. Social media absolutely exploded with praise for this incredible display of determination and skill. Tennis commentators were scrambling for superlatives to describe what they were witnessing. Everything seemed perfect. Everything seemed like a fairy tale sports story in the making. But then something started to change. And I mean something really deeply, fundamentally wrong started happening on that court. Things got weird in ways that nobody could initially explain. Viewers watching on television began noticing it first, posting confused comments on social media about the unusual, seemingly impossible power that Wang was generating from defensive positions. Commentators started whispering about it during the broadcast, their voices taking on that confused, uncertain tone that happens when professionals witness something they can't quite explain or rationalize. Every single time Eala seemed to have Wang pinned in a corner, every time the Filipino star had her opponent scrambling and completely on the defensive, Wang would somehow inexplicably produce a shot with an absolutely shocking amount of velocity from what should have been a purely defensive position. We're not talking about a player finding an extra gear through adrenaline or desperation. We're not talking about exceptional athleticism or perfect timing. We're talking about shots that appeared to violate the basic laws of physics that govern tennis, that seem to break the fundamental relationship between defensive positioning and offensive power that has defined the sport since its inception. In the second set, Eala surged ahead to lead 5-3. She was serving for the match. She had match point, just one single swing away from victory, one shot away from the final, and all the glory, ranking points, and prize money that comes with it. And then Wang unleashed a series of forehands that didn't just land inside the lines. They absolutely exploded off the court surface with a velocity that seemed physically impossible given the defensive position she was hitting from. Balls that should have been routine, manageable returns were suddenly screaming past Eala before she could even begin to react. It was like watching someone flip a switch and suddenly activate a superpower that shouldn't exist in human tennis. But here's where things get truly sinister, truly disturbing if you know what to look for. The sound coming off Wang's racket was different. Multiple people in the stadium noticed it independently. If you go back and watch the footage with the volume turned up, you can hear it clearly for yourself. There was this sharp, distinctive metallic ping echoing through the arena every time Wang made contact, a sound that was completely different from the normal thud of a tennis ball hitting strings and frame. That sound is crucial evidence, and acoustic engineers have already begun analyzing the broadcast audio. Watch the footage carefully during the changeovers and you'll see something else remarkable. You can see Eala glancing repeatedly at Wang's equipment, her eyes narrowing with visible suspicion, her mind clearly racing to process and understand what she was experiencing out there. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't a player making excuses in her own head. This was an elite athlete with thousands of hours of experience, recognizing that something was fundamentally, categorically wrong with what was happening. The comeback from Wang was absolutely brutal to witness. She took the second set 7-5, erasing Eala's match point and her commanding lead in one devastating surge of seemingly impossible power. Then in the third set, Eala fought with everything she had to lead 5-4, once again on the absolute brink of victory, so close she could taste it. But Wang rallied from that deficit to win 6-4, completing a comeback that on paper looks heroic and inspiring, but now appears to be something much more sinister. Something that may have had very little to do with heart or skill. Eala walked off that court utterly devastated, her face a mask of exhaustion and heartbreak. Her post-match Instagram post captured the raw emotion perfectly with just 4 words. So close, yet so far. But behind closed doors, away from the cameras and the congratulatory press conference that Wang was giving to assembled media, something was happening inside Alex Eala. The sadness she felt was rapidly transforming into something else entirely. It was crystallizing into suspicion, into anger, into a burning, unshakable need for answers and justice. For several days after that match, the tennis world moved on as it always does, as it must. The tournament continued. Other matches were played. Commentators and analysts praised the semifinal as an instant classic, talking glowingly about the drama, the shot-making, the incredible mental strength shown by both competitors. It seemed like just another amazing tennis match that would fade into the archives. But Alex Eala was not moving on. Alex Eala was gathering evidence, consulting with her team, reviewing footage, and preparing to do something that would absolutely shock the tennis establishment and send shockwaves through every corner of the professional sports world. She was preparing to break her silence with the force of a tsunami crashing into an unsuspecting coastline. In a move that has stunned WTA officials and forced emergency meetings at the highest levels of tennis governance, Eala officially appealed the match result to tournament organizers. But she wasn't just citing the health issues she had been battling through during the match, though those were significant and well documented. She was alleging something far more explosive, something that could potentially shake professional tennis to its very foundation and force a complete reevaluation of equipment regulations. "I know what I felt out there," Eala reportedly told her team in a private conversation that has since been leaked to insiders close to the situation. This quote has been circulating like absolute wildfire through tennis circles, shared in hushed conversations and encrypted messages. The ball was coming back faster than I was hitting it, even on what should have been the simple block shots. That's not natural. That's not humanly possible. That's technology doing the work. Then came the public statement that literally stopped the presses and forced every major tennis publication to completely scramble their coverage and rush editors back to their desks. Eala made a formal, official accusation that Xinyu Wang had been using a racket equipped with what she specifically described as a power-enhancing, kinetic dampening system, a piece of technology that is allegedly in a secret testing phase with a major equipment manufacturer and, most crucially, has absolutely not been approved for WTA competition by any governing body. Let that sink in for a moment. Really let the implications of that accusation wash over you. We're talking about prototype technology being used in official professional competition without any clearance, approval, or oversight. We're talking about equipment that fundamentally alters the physics of the game, being deployed in matches where hundreds of thousands of dollars in prize money and crucial ranking points are at stake. She used a racket with power-enhancing technology that is being secretly tested and hasn't been approved by the WTA, Eala stated in her formal complaint. Her words chosen carefully with obvious legal consultation, but landing like tactical bombs in the tennis world. I am asking the organizers to reconsider the decision, effectively requesting that her opponent be defaulted and the match result completely overturned. This is absolutely unprecedented in modern professional tennis. We've seen doping accusations, of course, with players being suspended for testing positive for banned substances like meldonium or various diuretics used to mask other drugs. We've seen illegal coaching scandals where players have been penalized for receiving instructions during matches through elaborate hand signals or codes. We've seen bathroom break controversies where players have been accused of disrupting their opponent's rhythm through deliberate gamesmanship and strategic timing. But an illegal racket? Equipment that fundamentally alters the physics of the game and does the work that skill and training are supposed to do? This takes us all the way back to the 1970s and the infamous spaghetti string scandal that nearly destroyed the credibility of professional tennis. For those too young to remember or unfamiliar with tennis history, spaghetti strings were a revolutionary stringing pattern developed in the 70s that generated so much spin and power through the interaction of multiple string layers that governing bodies had absolutely no choice but to ban them, because they fundamentally changed the nature of tennis itself. What Eala is alleging here is potentially even more serious than spaghetti strings. She's claiming that Wong's racket frame contains prototype materials, possibly involving what materials engineers call a piezoelectric core, which is a material that can dynamically stiffen on impact to return approximately 20% more energy to the ball than a standard graphite frame would. Think about what that means in practical terms. 20% more power on every single shot without any additional effort, technique, or athletic ability required from the player. If this accusation is true, and I want to emphasize that crucial if, because investigations are still ongoing, and Wong deserves the presumption of innocence, then Xinyu Wang wasn't really playing tennis in the traditional sense. She was operating a piece of advanced sports technology that was doing a significant portion of the work for her, artificially amplifying her abilities beyond what her actual skill level and physical capabilities would allow. The reaction to Eala's accusation was immediate and absolutely explosive. According to multiple credible sources with direct knowledge of the situation, Eala's coach was seen in a heated, nearly physical exchange with tournament officials immediately following the filing of the formal complaint. He was demanding, in language that reportedly became quite colorful, that Wong's racket be immediately impounded and sent for comprehensive forensic testing at an independent laboratory. The accusation was so specific, with Eala's team referencing secret testing programs with particular equipment manufacturers and citing unapproved prototype materials with technical specifications, that it forced the governing bodies to take immediate action. They couldn't just brush this under the rug with a dismissive statement and hope it would disappear from the news cycle. The specificity of the allegations and the technical detail provided made it impossible to ignore. Sources close to the investigation have confirmed to multiple media outlets that the World Anti-Doping Agency, which usually focuses exclusively on biological doping through performance-enhancing drugs and banned substances, has launched a joint investigation with the International Tennis Federation's Technical Committee. This collaboration between WADA and the ITF is almost unprecedented and signals just how seriously the allegations are being taken at the highest levels. You might be asking yourself why WADA would get involved in what appears to be purely an equipment dispute rather than a biological doping case. The answer is absolutely fascinating and deeply concerning for the future of all professional sports. The accusation implies a breach of what WADA calls the spirit of sport, a philosophical clause in their code that allows them to investigate any method or device that fundamentally alters the human element of competition, even if it's technological rather than pharmaceutical. If a racket can do the work that skill, training, and athletic ability are supposed to do, If equipment can replace or significantly augment human talent and effort, it's considered just as much of a violation of competitive integrity as taking a banned substance to enhance your cardiovascular capacity or muscle recovery. This is about protecting what makes sports meaningful, what makes athletic competition worth watching and celebrating. The preliminary results of this investigation, according to leaked reports that have reached sources in the tennis media world, have absolutely shocked even the most cynical observers who thought they had seen everything in professional sports. Forensic scans of the racket frame that was confiscated from Wang's equipment bag have allegedly revealed significant inconsistencies in the carbon fiber layup, which is the precise arrangement of carbon fiber sheets that gives modern rackets their strength, flexibility, and power characteristics. Specifically, the scans allegedly showed micro cavities within the frame structure that were filled with what materials scientists call a non-Newtonian fluid. For those unfamiliar with this term from physics and material science, a non-Newtonian fluid is a substance that dramatically changes its viscosity, its resistance to flow, based on the stress or force applied to it. The classic example that science teachers use is a mixture of cornstarch and water that acts like a liquid when you handle it gently, but becomes almost solid when you punch it or apply sudden force. In this case, the fluid allegedly hidden in microcavities in Wang's racket solidifies under the extreme stress of high-velocity collisions, with the ball traveling at speeds exceeding 80 or 90 miles per hour. When the ball impacts the strings and frame, the sudden stress causes the non-Newtonian fluid to instantly become rigid, effectively creating a temporarily stiffer frame that returns more energy to the ball. Then, in the fraction of a second after impact, the fluid returns to its normal state, ready for the next shot. It's absolutely brilliant engineering, truly cutting-edge material science, and if these allegations are proven true, it's also completely illegal cheating of the most sophisticated kind. This technology, if it exists as described, would give a player using it an enormous advantage. They could generate significantly more power from defensive positions without changing their swing mechanics or physical effort at all. They could hit winners from positions where normal players would be forced to just get the ball back in play. They could dominate exchanges through equipment rather than skill. It would fundamentally break the competitive balance that makes professional tennis meaningful. The equipment manufacturer allegedly involved in this secret testing program has declined to comment publicly, releasing only a brief statement through their legal team, saying they are cooperating fully with the investigation and cannot comment on specific allegations during an ongoing inquiry. That carefully worded non-denial has only fueled speculation and intensified media scrutiny. Tennis forums and social media platforms have exploded with amateur investigators analyzing frame-by-frame footage of Wang's matches, looking for evidence of this illegal technology in action. Meanwhile, Xinyu Wang herself has categorically denied all allegations through her management team, calling them baseless and defamatory, the result of a disappointed competitor unable to accept defeat gracefully. Her statement expressed sympathy for Eala's disappointment, but firmly rejected any suggestion of technological cheating. However, notably, Wang has not filed any defamation lawsuit against Eala, which some legal experts suggest indicates either a desire to let the investigation proceed without additional legal complications, or possibly some concern about what the discovery process in a lawsuit might reveal. But we cannot focus solely on the controversy, as dramatic and potentially sport-changing as it is, because Alex Eala is not someone who dwells in the past or lets setbacks define her future. While lawyers argue and investigators examine equipment, and the tennis world debates the implications, Eala is doing what champions do. She's channeling all of this frustration, all of this anger about potential injustice, into her preparation for the biggest opportunity of her young career. The Australian Open represents a massive stage for any player, but for Alex Eala it's something even more significant. This isn't just another tournament. This is her first main draw appearance at Melbourne Park, earned through her ranking rather than a wild card or qualifying. This is her arrival as a legitimate contender on the biggest stages in tennis. This is her chance to prove that she belongs among the elite players in the world. Before we get to her specific Australian Open draw and matchup, we need to understand something crucial about the broader impact that Alexandra Eala is having. not just on tennis, but on the entire sporting culture of her home country. The Eala effect is absolutely real and measurable in ways that go far beyond ranking points and match wins. In an interview she gave upon arriving in Melbourne, Eala spoke with remarkable candor and humility about the shifting landscape of sports in the Philippines, a country that has traditionally been absolutely obsessed with basketball to the virtual exclusion of almost every other sport. Basketball courts are on every street corner in Manila. The Professional Philippine Basketball Association draws massive television audiences. Young boys grow up dreaming of playing in the PBA or maybe making it to the NBA. Yeah, that's the reality, Ayla said when asked directly about tennis competing for attention in her basketball-crazy nation, acknowledging the challenge without any bitterness or resentment. When back home, tennis is not one of the biggest sports. Hopefully that's changing. And it is changing right before our eyes, largely because of what Alex Eala represents to young Filipinos who are seeing someone from their own country competing at the highest levels of international sport. Eala went on to share some genuinely heartwarming anecdotes about the concrete impact she's seeing in her own family and community back in Manila, evidence that her success is already creating ripple effects throughout Philippine sports culture. It always makes me happy when I come home and my cousins will tell me, "Oh, it's so hard to get a court now." Those are good signs. Think about what that simple statement means for a moment. Public tennis courts in Manila that used to sit empty for hours at a time are now fully booked days in advance because young girls and boys inspired by watching Alex compete on the world stage want to pick up a racket and see if they too can be the next Filipino tennis star. She is doing for tennis in the Philippines exactly what Manny Pacquiao did for boxing when he rose from desperate poverty to become one of the greatest fighters of all time and a national hero who eventually entered politics. She's giving an entire generation a role model, someone who looks like them and comes from their country, proving through her example that they too can compete at the highest levels of international sport. She's demonstrating that talent and determination can overcome resource disadvantages, that you don't need to be from a traditional tennis powerhouse nation with massive academies and funding to make it in professional tennis.